These last 3 years have been the craziest 3 years of my life, and probably everyone else's life too. And I think if history ever looks back on itself and gives this generation, this time in history, a name, it's probably going to be the woke ages. I mean, every age has its name, whether it's the Victorian ages, the Tudor ages, the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, the Iron Ages, whatever. And they don't give it a name at the time. People look back and give it a name. They think about what was happening then. And I've never seen so many snowflakes, so many wokes. I don't know when inventing them words, but that's exactly what they are. And I was very surprised by some of them that became snowflakes and became woke. I mean, I've been through the full system. I've been through children's homes. I've been through security units. I've been in prisons. I've been a professional boxer. I've been with some of the toughest guys in the country in some way or another. I've known gangsters. You know, I've never been that kind of life myself, but I've known them anyway. And I've been amazed by how many people, the types of people that just bowed down to all this nonsense. You know, these are people that I thought was tough. When this COVID thing started, I thought, no. Now, some of them you can understand because some of them are fairies, but some of them were quite tough. And they were giving into all this as well, and wearing their face masks and doing all this social distancing and telling everyone to do the same for a cold virus. I couldn't believe it. You know, I really got angry with that. I've fallen out of everybody almost. There's very few people I talk to anymore because I don't like anybody I'm pissed off with anybody who took the vaccine because it's just cowardly to me. Anyway, and the more I think about it, I think we're being programmed to become snowflakes. We're being programmed to become weak. I mean, even the people who don't consider themselves snowflakes, like the Piers Morgan and Donald Trump, even Boris Johnson and Putin. Vladimir Putin was wearing a face mask. One of the toughest presidents we know, apparently, and even he was wimping out. You know, it's just some of the actors, the famous actors. Tom Hardy, we've always assumed of being a tough guy, wearing face masks and gloves and all that stuff, and now he's wearing whatever, women's skirts. Brad Pitt's wearing women's skirts. Vin Diesel, I always thought Vin Diesel was a tough guy. He's wearing ladies' underwear, ladies' clothes. The world is getting so crazy. You know, boys are growing up not knowing if they're a boy. Girls are growing up not knowing if they're a girl. Everything's so ridiculous. We've got whites wearing "I am sorry" t-shirts for racism that none of us were responsible for. Racism has always been around. It's nothing to do with slavery's always been around. It's got nothing to do with blacks. Whites have been slaves to blacks. Blacks have been slaves to whites. You know, it's historical things have happened, and people are apologetic for what happened. And the trans agenda, it's just crazy. We've got a trans at work, and anybody who says that the minority are discriminated is bullshit. Because in my experience, anybody who's black gets more attention than whites. Everyone wants to be his friend because he's black. They want to pretend they're not racist. He gets more girls because women want to date him because they want to prove they're not racist. It becomes white guilt. And we've got the trans situation. Every time a trans appears somewhere in work or wherever, everybody's creeping around him or her or it. They give them so much attention, and it's like as if they become celebrities. And people like me, who's a white heterosexual male able-bodied guy, I'm kind of got no voice. You know, if I give my voice, I'm toxic. I'm toxic masculinity or whatever. So we live in an age of wokes, and as I say, I'm surprised by how many people fell for it. People was afraid to touch their own face for a while. People was afraid. I mean, I was walking down the street and people would rather cross on the road and get run over by a bus than walk within 2 meters of someone else. It was just ridiculously woke, snowflake, dumb, whatever. People were hand sanitizing everywhere they went. The world just went crazy. And you have to think, what's actually happening? We've been programmed with propaganda constantly in our face. Everywhere we've gone, we've seen protect the elderly, and it's accused us of being murderers if we don't do what we're told to do. But we've always been exposed to propaganda. We've always been exposed to this kind of brainwashing throughout history of mankind, whether it be religion, culture, tradition, patriotism, fashion. I mean, I remember when I was at school and all the boys came to school. I was about 8 or 9, maybe even 10, I don't know, but I was maybe even 7, I can't remember how old I was. And all the boys started coming to school curly hair. And I didn't realise at the time what was happening because I wasn't really a popular kid, I wasn't friendly with them or anything. They were getting perms because the footballers were getting perms, and then the earrings in one ear, and the torn jeans and the flat top haircuts. It was. I look back at my life and think I was actually an outcast because I wasn't doing what they were doing. I wasn't fitting in. I wasn't smoking behind the bike sheds. I wasn't learning small talk, social skills. I wasn't wearing deodorant or wearing designer clothes. I wasn't doing what other kids were doing to fit in. And but we've always been exposed to this. I mean, there's some parts of the world where you you won't fit in if you're not a Muslim, if you're not a Christian, if you're not a Jew, if you're not an Hindu or Sikh, or some parts of the world you won't even fit in if you're not an atheist. So and then we've got religion, patriotism. Sorry, if you don't support Donald Trump or you don't support Biden, you're going to get ostracised. It's the way things are. And I blame it on the birth of civilization. You see, there was once a time when we had a survival of the fittest philosophy, where the strongest man became the leader. And if anybody had anything to say about that, he would fight them. And if the winner of that fight would become the leader. It was so simple. It's animal, it's primal, it's the way animals work. And this assured that the strongest remained in authority, and the strongest chose the strongest women, or the best women, the most suitable women for having children. These children were statistically the strongest children. But then we had a monarchy system. Obviously, one of these alpha males who was the strongest decided he wanted his heir to become the alpha. So we invented a monarchy system, and this allowed his children to become the leaders. His sons at the time, obviously, we didn't have feminism at the time. So his son would become the leader through the monarchy system. Now, obviously, people got pissed off for this because they realised that this wasn't a fair system, and the sons weren't necessarily the strongest or the best leaders. You know, so they invented a democracy. This allowed anybody with enough money to run a campaign to become a leader. And it was no longer about being strong. It was about who told the most lies, or the best lies, who promised the most for the least. That's how politicians get in power. They promise the most for the least taxes. They promise the most education, the most money in policing, hospitals, whatever. And that's how they get in power, by lying, or by bankrupting the country through socialism. That's another subject. Anyway, so basically what this has led to is a generation of weak children, because anybody can breed. We have a system where if you're unemployed, you still can live. If you've got a low IQ, if you're not the strongest, if you're disabled, you know, hundreds of years ago, maybe even thousands of years ago, these people would either die or be ostracized in some way. They wouldn't be breeding, and then they wouldn't be breeding dysfunctional kids. I mean, I know lots of parents who have various illnesses like diabetes or epilepsy or any kind of genetic deformity or illness. The guy who plays in the Harry Potter films, the dwarf, I don't know his name, he's been in Willow as well. He's got a wife, and he's a dwarf. Their kids are dwarfs. You know, it's very eugenics what I'm talking about, but what I'm saying is weakest people are allowed to breed. And now obviously we've got feminism, which imposes female power. You know, the male politicians allowed feminism because they wanted to bid for women's votes. Not because they wanted women's rights, they just wanted to bid for women's votes to get power. They knew that they could double the votes by giving women a say. Now this feminized society, because men are being raised mostly by women now. and these men are being raised feminine, weak. And the girls are being raised like Xena Warrior. They can do anything. They think they're tough. They think they can do anything, live like men. And men have to, we have to slow down a little bit. We have to carry the women because they can't keep up. So society has become extremely feminized and deformed as well. I mean, I've worked with disabled people before. I've worked with women before, and they all slow me down. There's no equality. We're told that we're equal, but there's no equality. I'm doing more than they know, and we're getting the same pay. And this weakens society. And now we've got the LGTB, which has never been stronger. This is going to turn society into a semi-gay society. Even if you're not gay yourself, you're going to support it. It's going to weaken you. You know the story. What's the saying? One bad apple on a tree makes every apple bad. I don't know what it is. But basically, society is like socialism. Equality is like it's like a virus that's sweeping through society, and it's weakening everything. And if you want to remain strong, if you want to talk strong, if you want to think strong, you will get ostracized because you are considered toxic. They want to make men like me toxic because toxic men are powerful and strong. They know that. The elites know that guys like me would never allow this stuff to happen. You know, guys like me don't bow down to the BLM. Guys like me don't support feminism. I don't support the LGTB. I did not wear a face mask. I did not take the vaccine. I did not do anything that I'm told to do. You could say I'm antisocial. That's the way they want to label it. But really, they want to control us. And they want to make us all woke because they know that wokes are easy to control. They know that if society was full of guys like me, the elites wouldn't exist. We would have revolted. But I'm just the one guy, you know, there's not many people like me. But if there was, we would have revolted and the elites would have been in trouble. They know that they have to keep us weak. They have to keep us woke. They have to keep us snowflakes. And as I said, if we don't bow down to this bullshit, this equality, feminism, LGTB, whatever, we're ostracized, we're toxic.